Today I wanted to show you some work I just done on my 1973 Triumph Stag. So recently I updated and replaced the AC components to be R134 compliant and to get the system working, because when I got the car, most of the components had been removed, though fortunately the old owner saved all that and gave them to me along with the car. So this is my car. Nice mimosa yellow Triumph Stag. 1973, it's a Mark II. It's original paint. And we'll put about 25,000 miles on it over the years. Really nice. I really enjoy this car a lot. It's 4-speed overdrive. It's got a nice leather interior now, which we updated a couple of years ago. And I'd also been through and rebuilt the engine. And my wife calls it the adult car. So it's comfy, it's good on long trips with the overdrive transmission. It's really great on the freeway. You can get on I-5 and follow traffic doing 80, 90 miles an hour almost all day. So let's show you under the hood. So this is a 3-liter overhead cam V8. It's the Triumph engine, Triumph design. They only used it in the Stags. I've modified it, bought an adapter from Fox, head of the Stag club in Canada, so I could put a Holley 4-barrel on it. So it's got a 390 CFM Holley on it. It works really nice. It's just so much better than the side drafts ever were. I didn't do too much on the inside. I had to replace the evaporator because it was broken when I got it, but I found another stock Triumph one because they're much smaller than modern evaporators. And the valve is in there as well, the evaporator valve. And then the lines run under the dashboard, and then they exit down here under the master cylinders. It says them coming forward. I updated this. This is an R4 GM type compressor. They used to have an old York compressor. This is much smaller and it's more efficient. It goes forward, and I need to see the edge of it there, but there's a brand new condenser there. Comes back to a new filter. This is the pressure valve instead of the big old Ronco thing that used to be down there, and then it's back under the car. So it's pretty straightforward. I bought a new condenser. I don't know if you can see it through the grill or not. It's there. And it's the size of the original condenser, though I mounted it directly to the radiator support rather than there's some brackets in there. Then there's a whole big assembly that was holding the condenser and the electric fans for cooling the condenser and all that. And I decided to try it with just a condenser. This has the 13-blade Mark II fan and the cowling still in place. And that seems to work pretty good. I mean, the biggest problem with this is it was designed to work with R12, which has more cooling power than R134. So up to 90 degrees, 95 degrees, it works pretty good. But when you start pushing 100, the AC really struggles because it's undersized for that much heat. But I used the original aluminum mount for the compressor, and the original setup had a steel plate between the aluminum mount and the York compressor. I reused that plate, and you can't really see the plate, but I welded a horseshoe onto the back of it, and that mounts right onto this compressor. And I used a through bolt in the bottom because there's a lip on the front of the plate. So there's a bolt all the way through the compressor, 2 more stabilizing bolts, and I also added this piece of angle iron because at low speeds it was vibrating and making noise. And the compressor's a little noisy at idle. It's not really bad, but it's getting a little bit quieter as it wears in too. So I originally bolted it all back together and put the stock radiator back in, which had a decent radiator in it, which had always worked well. You know, even in 100-degree days, it would keep this engine cool. But what we found is that with the addition of the condenser in the front, preheating the air and also reducing the airflow, it was running pretty hot. Up to about 90 degrees, it was okay, but over 90 degrees, boy, it started running really hot. It didn't overheat, but it was sure getting close. So I opted for an aluminum radiator, and this is made by a company called Wizard. So this is a really high quality aluminum radiator. You can get some on eBay for a couple $100 from, I'm assuming, companies that are making the radiators in China. This is a much nicer radiator than that. So putting that in, it would have been easier if the radiator had been about a 1/4 inch narrower. So I sort of had to massage the edges a little bit, and there was a little bit of interference at the bottom of the radiator where it bolted down at the front 2 corners, the last couple of inches. So I had to do a little hammer work, nothing too bad. The ports are all in the spaces that you would expect, and again, this is a standard transmission, so this doesn't have a cooler in it. It also came with this bung for electric fans, and this used to have an electric fan in the front, so it had all the stuff for that. So I put it back in, though it's not connected to anything. And it also has this, for this year, this is the correct radiator piece, but this bung is a different thread than the original one. So this one is, I think, 1/2 inch US pipe tapered, whereas I think the original plug is probably 1/2 inch English straight pipe. So that did not fit, but I happen to have in a box of parts a couple of these plugs that do fit, so that's what I used. Or you can just go to the hardware store, get a 1/2 inch plug, like an end plug for just regular 1/2 inch pipe. I did have to take my pipe tap and run it in a bit further. They hadn't run them in far enough, so they were only going in like 1 thread, so I turned them down a bit further so they would engage better. Other than that, the cowling mounted right up, no problems, though these are 10 millimeter bolts, and originally it was 3/8 or something like that, so I had to get some new bolts for that. But other than that, it seems to have gone in. It is a tiny bit thicker, but there was still enough room. I don't know, I think I might have had to, I adjusted this is sheet metal, by the way. So I adjusted that a little bit here and there, and I added, this is actually a piece of Furflex, but there was a gap here, and it just happened to fit, and it's just something that was laying around the garage, so. And I like that. So that seems to have helped a lot. That under normal conditions, it runs about 1 needle width warmer than it used to with the AC on. It used to be pretty much would run right in the middle, straight up and down, and now it's just, like I say, 1 needle width over. It can get a little warmer when you're in traffic and traffic lights and stuff like that, but it seems like when as soon as you start moving again, it cools right down again. So there definitely has more capacity than the original radiator. It is quite a bit thicker, and just it's modern, so it's more tubes, better fitting, all the things they've learned in the last 50 years on how to make a radiator better. So I think that's about everything that we have to do for this. This is the original adjustment for the fan belt. So this fan belt is a 1/2 inch longer than the stock one. So I guess this pulley's a little bit bigger or something. So that was the only difference. It's the same width. I think the original was a 135 and this is a 135.5. I think. That's just off the top of my head. And it works pretty nice. The heater box has dual fans in it, so the nice thing is that it moves a lot more air, but it doesn't move it with as much velocity. So you have better cooling effect because it has a chance to still run through the small evaporator and cool off, whereas, well, you can't really see, but that's a Rover P6, and we've done much the same to that as we did to here, other than using a different compressor. But that has the single fan, and the air through that has to really move quickly to get the volume of air. So the other thing that I did notice, because this car had air conditioning originally, this has tinted windows. And that makes the Rover, even though it had air conditioning originally, did not have tinted windows. So we added tinting to those windows, and that really helped on the heat gain, because that car's got a lot of glass. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.